Hello everybody, this is Eric Novice. In this video I'm going to talk about John Beck's 50 churches in California goal. So you probably heard this many times, especially if you were or are a current member. You probably heard this in his sermons about God telling him to establish 50 churches in America. So what on earth does that even mean? What is he talking about? And you might be thinking, oh, you're going to establish an actual church, you're going to physically build a church or something like that. No. That's not what it means. What he's really saying is, I want to establish a house church. In UBF, a house church is when they establish a marriage by UBF's marriage by faith. If you want to learn more details about marriage by faith, I made a playlist in the link in the description below. In the link in the description below, I'll put a playlist where I did several videos in the past explaining what marriage by faith is, how it works. So in UBF, that's what a house church is. That's their interpretation of it. So in other words, John Beck's goal, or missionary John Beck's goal, is to establish 50 house churches, just to have 50 couples, established under his name, and he wants to take the credit for it and be a UBF celebrity, if that makes any sense. And after that happens, he's just going to keep them under his shadow for a while, and then he'll retire, and then he'll have another UBF Korean take over his position and continue the whole ordeal. So that's basically what it actually means. Because the reality is, UBF only wants Koreans from Korea UBF to be missionaries. UBF will never make a native or anyone who is not Korean in UBF, who's not of Korean descent, a missionary. That's why people like Ron Ward, Martin Vucekovich, Russell Kill, just to name a few, they're never referred to as missionaries. That's what they're referred to as pastor or shepherdess, blank. Because UBF will never make them official missionaries. And by missionary, what I mean is where you get to go to another country and establish your own church according to God's will. That will never happen. At most, you may be lucky to even go on a missions trip. A missions trip in UBF is basically where you go on a trip and visit other UBF churches in other countries. You attend their service, you do their Bible studies. That's it. But it's a trip, so you're only there for a few days at most. And then you come back. And when you come back, you share a testimony about what you learned and everything. And you once again spout out propaganda, UBF propaganda, showing everybody how great UBF is. It's kind of a way to entice people to stay in UBF. The last time anyone went on a mission trip in Shepherd's Church or El Camino UBF was back in 2016. It was Ivan, Bianca, Sarah Kim, who's now married to Mason. Bianca, who's married to Eric Hernandez. Who else? Grace Beck, the wife of John. The wife of John Beck. April Booz. And Johnny's wife, Catherine Pringle. And everybody, I think, except Ivan, has gotten married or was already married. So in order to go on a mission trip, you have to basically go through the marriage by faith. And you have to be like super loyal, super insinuated into the UBF cult. Right? Because in Ivan's case, when he went to a mission trip, he was only there for about 2 years most. So it really goes to show how UBF has favoritism. They play favorites. They also discriminate. Everybody who went to the mission trip except for Catherine Pringle is basically white or looks white or Korean. So there's discrimination right there as well. And which is interesting because there's people like Chris Carson who's been there for about a decade now, and he's never been on a mission trip. And yet, Ivan, who was John Beck's student, who was originally Sarah Beck's student, his daughter's, before he became John Beck's student, he only there for a brief time. He already gets moved up so fast. Because in a short time, he was delivering messages. Symposium now, he delivers actual messages. And he was only there for a short time, too. So, a little sidetrack, but yes. So that's what John Beck's goal is to establish 50 churches in California. So everybody who's a married couple in Camino UBF right now, know this. If you see this now or later on in the future, John Beck is never going to make you a missionary. I'm just going to flat out say that. He's never going to have you make your own church. If you're lucky, but this is an extremely rare case where you get to pioneer your own church in the same country. Ron Ward's case doesn't count because the founder created the Chicago UBF. Ron Ward just kind of took over. Mark Vidovich, I think it's a case like that where he has his own chapter, but those cases are extremely rare, and you have to be white and married. But as far as being a missionary, like going to another country, establishing your own church, having a complete autonomy, meaning being your own individual thing, that's never going to happen. It will not happen because you're not of Korean descent. Specifically from Korea UBF, any of the chapters from Korea UBF, or a second gen. So that's the reality. And a lot of married couples realize this. Not right away, but after 15, 20 years, they realize that, wait, they're never going to make you a missionary. And if you think about it, all of the missionaries who visit one another's UBF chapter, or if you go to conferences, you notice that all the UBF missionaries are Korean. No native is referred to as a missionary. So that's kind of a shorter video explaining John Beck's 50 churches in California. What on earth does that mean? So if you're an outsider, if you hear that first time, you might think, oh, he's just going to have members pioneer a new church or be missionary. No, that's not the case. He just wants to basically look good on paper and keep people under his shadow until he dies. That's basically what his goal is. Alright, Eric Navas, signing off.